I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores. The first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Again, I'll remind you of your responsibility to do so. The next is additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda, and we have nothing under that. So the next item is adoption of minutes, and I've got a motion by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, second by Councillor Minaj, that the council adopts the minutes of the council meeting of March 27, 2017 as presented. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? That's carried. Next item is the Committee of the Whole minutes, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace and second by Councillor Minaj that council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 27, 2017 as presented. Any errors? Not. All in favor? That's carried. So the next item is the General Government Report for March 27th, and it's been moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Councillor Grace, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the General Government Report dated March the 27th, 2017, recommending that Council approves the revised social media policy. Questions or comments? All in favor then? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item is motions or notice of motions. We have a motion here. Notice. Two motions and one notice. The first motion is moved by Councillor Dave Myatt, second by Councillor Mike Myatt. Be it resolved that the town of Saugeen Shores provides a $500 donation to the Saugeen Municipal Air Show and Snowbird Show being held in the Saugeen Municipal Airport on June the 21st, 2017, in celebration of the Canada's 150th birthday. Any comments to this? Councillor Dave Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, having moved this motion and drafted it, I'm supporting this motion. We had Mr. Englishman here 2 council meetings ago presenting to us the plan they had to put on the show at the Saugeen Municipal Airport in Hanover. And I think that there are many people in our community, certainly the people that I deal with on the Airport Committee, are very much in favor of supporting this initiative, to which point they have pledged $500 of support through funds that they raise through sale of fuel and moorings and things from their budget. And based on that, I would like to see that council support a $500 matching donation so that we can contribute to this. I think it's a great event to have the air show here, supporting our Canadian military and also celebrating our 150th anniversary. I think it's incumbent upon us to make a contribution of $1,000. Thank you.
Comments? This will add to the donation that we made through the county of about $8,000. We're about 25% of that. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. Just a question. Are we somehow through the finance department trying to keep a running tally of donations we make, either actual money or in kind or other kinds of things, so that we have a more realistic sense at the end of a budget year what that level of sponsorship or contribution is from the taxpayer? The reason why I ask is that I'm not inclined to support this. I understand everything that Councillor Myatt just said, and I get that. However, this is not in our own community, and there's stuff here in our own community that we don't offer much support to. I realize it's only $500, but I've been keeping a little list in my desk here. We had BIA stuff with a snow fest. We had the We Cares coming up, which we've got the facility. The Rotary Home Show was just over the weekend. Great event, but there was some waivers of rental fees there. And there's this and this and this, and it all adds up to, by the end of the year, a lot of money. And at some point, this is taxpayer money. So I'm just a question to you, perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor, to David. Are we? I know Mark Gaynor was trying to find a way to kind of just keep some kind of track, so that we had a sense whether we're talking about $10,000 or $100,000 at the end of the year that fits into this kind of corporate donation contribution category, just so that we had a realistic sense of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely yes. We are tracking those contributions, whether they're cash donations or donations in kind. And we are also attempting, and we'll get better at making sure that the town is recognized. So if there's a program and there's a sponsorship level and we are donating $500 or space in lieu of rent, we should be fully recognize that, and that the town should realize any benefits from that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess a follow-up question for our CAO. Where would this $500 come from?
Typically, a one-time fund or a payment would come from a tax rate stabilization fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to support, our Councillor Dave Myatt's motion. $500 is taxpayers' dollars, and I understand that, and it is a relatively small amount. But I think that, from a neighborly standpoint, I think if Walkerton or Hanover or Kincardine or a neighboring community, if we went to them, we were running an air show that's going to cost a whole lot of dollars. I would hope that our good neighbors would support us, in the amount of $500 in the future as well. And I think that having an event so nearby down in Hanover area, that I dare say there's going to be a whole lot of people attend from Saugeen Shores. So I just think it's not a large amount. It's probably the principle of the matter, I suppose, but I would hope that it'd be reciprocated if we put a feeler out for a request for a similar event.
Okay, we've had some discussion. If ready for the question, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. The next is a motion, and it is to do with, it's a motion to do with the swimming pool location, and it's been moved by Councillor Madison, second by Councillor Reid. Rich, I'll get it right. Whereas the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores has directed staff to continue to work to achieve a new swimming pool in Saugeen Shores, and efforts continue to achieve that goal, and whereas a number of locations have been considered over time, and as our community is evolving over time, a fixed location identified now might not be the best location when the pool is ultimately approved and achieved, and whereas a significant percent of pool day time use is a direct result of close proximity to the current pool to the high school, and whereas funding from the partners may play a significant role in the economic viability of the project, keeping potential partners and their goals under consideration increases opportunity. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council provide direction to staff that while advancing the project as directed by Council, staff should consider and report on an alternate location option, that being Cameron Park, and that it be considered as an alternate choice to the currently favored complex location, and that when considering alternate locations, staff also consider alternate structural designs that will make the project more affordable and hopefully entice potential partners to join. Comments? Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm bringing this motion forward because I do not believe we have all the current information required to make the correct decision. I know that Council passed the motion to build at the Plex, but we did not state where. Also, all the reports which have been presented are dated and do not take into consideration the impact of moving the pool to this location, the impact that it would have on the various users of the pool. If the pool is moved here, all of the physical education classes from Saugeen District Secondary School would no longer be able to attend here. That is 6 to 8 classes, 20 to 25 students per class per semester. The second and most important reason for this motion is that we need to look at alternative building constructions techniques. There are alternative designs out there now that can be built at a fraction of the price and save considerably on the electrical usage charges. One only has to look at the next wave study to see the pros and cons of building at this site. There are too many what-ifs with the present build. Parking, removal of hydro lines, and even the design itself is in question. So I hope Council will take this opportunity to look at alternative sites and building concepts. This project is large, upwards of $15 to $17 million by my guesstimates, using traditional methods. And if we can build the same thing in a different way at a fraction of the price, we'll be doing our community members a great service. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments? Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the comment about looking at alternate structural designs is certainly an appropriate one. I think that as it stands now, Councillor Matheson's estimates between $15 and $17 million are probably close to accurate, and that's just a number that we know based on our previous resolutions we've already decided is something we can't achieve all on our own. We would need a considerable amount of outside funding. And one thing we have not looked at, as far as my experience goes, and having looked at these reports many times, is this concept of some of these alternate structures that do exist out there that Councillor Matheson has been looking at, and I know the Recreation Committee has looked at, and I think it would be worthwhile for us to at least have a look at those alternate structures to see if they can be used in Saugeen Shores and whether that would work in Saugeen Shores, because we could achieve a lot more at a lower price potentially. So I think that it's worth looking at, and it's something we haven't looked at. I am not necessarily a supporter of Cameron Park as a location for a pool. I do believe, though, that if you're going to look at an alternative structure, that you're going to need to look at another site other than the one we've settled on. So looking at an alternate structure in tandem with an alternate site as part of our work in a high level way, I think is something that would be worth doing. And so I will support the motion with the caveat that I may not ultimately end up being a supporter of Cameron Park as the location for this facility. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We started this process back in 2007, 2008, and in 2010, Monteith Brown Planning Consultants identified a location for proposed pool facility on the east side of the Plex, according to this report that I read today. pardon me? The next wave report identified a location of proposed pool facility on the east side of the Plex. And in June of 2015, Council approved the recommendation that a new two-tank aquatic facility be attached to the Plex. Recently, in a staff report, a consultant recommended that the pool be constructed again at the community complex. It's been a very consistent message from professional planners that have been around for a very, very long time. I'm not sure why we're delaying this any further. I appreciate the comment about the users, a large percentage of our users coming from the high school, but I met with aquatic supervisors with staff, and there's 42,240 pool users went through the pool in 2016. 3.2% were from the high school. 1,348 of the 42,000. 56 bookings. So I'm not convinced that by moving the pool, a new pool, if and when it gets built, moving down here, is going to have the kind of impact that we're led to believe. I really don't believe that there's going to be a mass exodus of high school students coming down here. I met with the kindergarten staff last week, Aquatic Center, and their high school is closer to the pool, no doubt. But those high school students that use that pool go there because they want to use the pool. I believe that if new pool is constructed here next to the community complex, that we'll continue to have high school students come down and use it. I think putting it up at Cameron Park, I agree with our deputy mayor, is not the right location. I mean, since this story broke a couple of weeks ago, I've had a good number of ball groups say, "What? You're taking out a ball diamond at Cameron Park? We've already got a shortage of ball fields in this community." So I'm just not convinced at all that Cameron Park is a location. I think it opens like Northport School, for example. If we build here, that becomes a walkable school to the facility. But really, outside of that, I think we've had plan after plan after plan come forward recommending that the pool be built right here at the Plex. Yes, it did say the east side on one occasion. Just recently, it's been shifted, the recommendation, I believe, to the west side. But this council approved the Plex location. And I guess by deferring it again, and I use this comparison to, it's been mentioned around this table, that deferring planning issues, let's just make the decision at the council table. Why are we deferring? Let's make the decision. We did that back in June of 2015. So I guess I asked the question, if it's deferred again, do we go back to Monteith Brown Planning Consultants and say, you've already mentioned 2 or 3 times that the pool should be at the Plex, but could you please come back to us one more time just to see if Cameron Park would work? That planning was all done several times. Do we go back to staff and ask them to devote time to seeing, could you see if Cameron Park is the right location? And what's the report? Is it going to come back saying that the Plex is still the preferred location? So I don't think we should be spending another minute on this. Just to finish up, Mr. Mayor, our Director of Community Services 2 weeks ago came out with a plan talking about acquiring preliminary costing for the facility in May of 2017, obtained design development drawings in June, a questionnaire in June, July, and proceed with the development of a business case. And that's what I believe we should be driving at right now is a business case to take a look at what does it financially look at building a pool facility here at the complex. In commencement of a pool ad hoc committee this fall. I like that business plan, and to our Director of Community Services, I think he did a great job on that. So I don't think we should be spending another minute on it. I think we're just delaying the decision further. And I say let's get some costing done for this facility and live up to our recommendation from June of 2015, Mr. Mayor, and let's move on with it. Thank you.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too am a little surprised at where we're at today with this motion. And I'd like to separate the two. I really don't mind the effort in looking at different construction techniques. And if that's part of an RFP process, then we could probably design that. Staff could design that process to say, we're looking at alternatives on construction. But to spend more time, and I'd like to go back in time, and I think that we said, many of us said, and got elected on a platform that said, the pool is long overdue, and here we are, 1 budget year left on this term of council, and I won't get another crack at it as a politician to suggest that I was hoping that we could put some placeholding financial plans, get something moving, and more so in this next budget. To ask staff now to change direction, it means, and I've been given plenty of information saying, Neil, you may be asking staff to do too much. They've got plenty to do this year. We went through a very heavy decision-making process and a budget process that gave staff plenty to do. To ask staff to change direction now means another delay. It means we won't be ready for budget year, in my mind, for the 2018 budget. What I'd like to say, in addition, is I'm still convinced the east side of this facility is the right side to place the pool, and the only reason it wouldn't be is if we were going to close the Southampton Arena, because this arena here has a twinning capability on the east side. So if we've already gone past that step, and I believe we have, this community really only needs 2 ice surfaces, and if we're going to stay with our thinking and stay with our asset management plan that the Southampton Arena has many, many years life left in it, then we should still be on the east side here, not the west side. That's my opinion on that. So what I'd like to do is get this darn pool shovel ready, get the location finalized based on all the reports and plans that we've already heard about. And I respectfully, Don, I don't know why we need to go look I don't buy the whole high school thing and the Cameron Park thing. I really don't. And I'm with you. I was with you from the beginning. You said you wanted this pool this term of council, and I'm with you. And I just don't want to delay it anymore, not in my opinion. So I'd like to see us, I will vote no against this motion, but I still want that construction option, and I still support that look, but not the new location. Thank you.
Councillor Rich?
Thank you, through me, Mr. Mayor. I'm supporting the motion. I seconded it, and I'm going to tell you why. When I was at AMO, I had an opportunity to talk to the people from Sprung, and they were floating numbers that were 33% the cost of a brick and mortar facility. They were throwing out numbers like 20% of the operational costs for electricity and energy. If we don't look at an option like that, then I think that we're doing a disservice to the taxpayers of this community. Looking at other options, I don't know how a Sprung building is going to fit in on the west side of this facility. I know what the drawings that we received look like. I would tend to agree with the deputy mayor. I think it's very difficult to separate the two, and it seems to me, as I've kind of learning more and more about the process of municipal government, that if you start kind of pushing yourself down a specific line, then you end up in trouble, and you can't seem to change direction. So by broadening it and being able to take into consideration different locations to work in keeping with that sprung form design, which I'd love to see a costing on, because if the numbers that they're throwing out are true, as far as longevity and costing goes, then I think it's very worthwhile for the people of this community. And there's an old Indian saying, and it goes like this: if you go too far down the wrong road, turn back. So if we have to turn back and do this and do it right, then that's what we should do.
Okay, Mike.
Just clarification. If the motion is approved, and I will be voting against the motion, but one thing I do agree with Councillor Matheson is if we need to take a look, and with Councillor Rich at the Sprung, the name of the company, sorry, Don, alternative building, then I'm not against looking at an alternative building and going for a site visit. My point was, decision was made on several occasions to place the pool here. I asked the question of you, Mr. Mayor, if this motion is approved this evening, who is carrying out the next wave study report, and how long is it going to take? Who are we directing to do? Are we hiring Monteith again? Is it going back to staff? How is this going to be carried out is my question. And I really think this motion is two parts.
I'll go back to the motion. It says that now there be it resolved that council provide direction to staff. So we turn it back to staff to consider. It doesn't say where to go. It just says to consider. In my mind, that's the way I read it. If anybody want to speak to it? Sure.
I'm through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking for clarification because when I look at the language here, it says staff, while advancing the project as directed by council, which is currently directed at the Plex location, so that the staff will still advance that location as the project is directed by council, that there is a second choice that is considered as things progress. But clearly, staff and the direction that we will follow is the Plex is the location, with a secondary option being considered.
So, is everybody clear on that then? Go ahead.
I wonder, Mr. Mayor, just put it out there to the mover and seconder if they would consider removing Cameron Park from the recommendation, and so that it would simply be, and the understanding would be that staff would be looking at the alternative structure and alternate locations, because you need alternate locations if you have an alternate structure, and not directing them to look in a specific location.
Mr. Mayor, we can strike out Cameron Park, but we are I will not drop it if we're not looking at alternative locations. And just for a few clarifications for Councillor Minaj, if you like, I can have a letter from the Director of Physical Education at Saugeen District saying they will not be coming down here. They do not have the time to walk here in a 76-minute period here and back to have it. So we can take out Cameron Park, okay. Alternative site, alternative construction.
I'll just read that paragraph then, so that we're clear what you're suggesting. And then now therefore be it resolved that council provide direction to staff that while advancing the project as directed by council, staff should consider a report on an alternate location option. The next phrase is that being Cameron Park. I will strike that. And the final phrase is, and that it be considered as an alternate choice to the currently favored complex function. Is that fine? Okay, then I'll strike that. Okay.
Can I just get there? Sure. Sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure that the staff have clear direction. Tomorrow, staff are going to continue to advance the Plex location, because that's what we're directed by council. That's council's current choice. We're going to continue as we are with the Plex location. And at the same time, we are going to do some due diligence and some research on an alternate location, and that the alternate building method would be considered at any location, quite frankly. As we go along the path, we'll be looking at all sorts of locations.
Are you clear on that? Okay.
That's how I'm interpreting it.
That's how I would take it. Councillor Minaj.
Well, it sounds like a shell game to me. It looks like we're going to look for an alternate location, but it has to be close enough for the high school students to be able to walk there rather than any other method. So how many locations are close enough to the high school to, like, what are we doing? What are we accomplishing here? I believe that we're fooling ourselves by creating this wording now to help the mover and the seconder with their intent, and yet the intent is it's still in the same place. It's still talking about Cameron Park, even though we deleted it. I can't in my mind figure out where another location is going to be that the high school students will be able to take an opportunity to use. The public are asking me, why are we delaying? Why aren't we moving this project forward? This is not moving the project forward. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay, but it's extra work, and I think that we won't be shovel ready and we won't be budget ready, because we have to be ready by October-ish, and who knows at what point somebody's going to say, oh, there is money available, and we're still dilly-dallying around trying to find another suitable location.
Okay. Councillor Rich, sure.
The important thing to consider is the alternate structure, first and foremost. I think that we have to really keep that foremost in our minds, because if we can build this facility for 33% of the cost of a brick and mortar structure, then that is really worth considering. And I didn't know about that when we went through the original committee, and I never saw anything relating to that. Although the one thing I would say is if you go on Sprung, they have those facilities ready to go. They've got the drawings, everything. They can put it wherever you want it, and it's a matter of whether or not it fits here or where it kind of fits in. So I think keep that in mind when we're voting on this,
please. Just a suggestion, would you like to separate the two issues about the structure or the location? No? Okay. So I think we've discussed this enough. Everybody ready for the question? So all in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? That carries. So, we'll move on then. So, I have a notice of motion will
Mr. Mayor?
appear and yep.
Could I ask you to ask leave of council to consider the notice this evening?
Okay. So there is a notice of motion that you have seen there, And there is a request. I guess we'll need a second. So, okay, John, that this be placed on the agenda instead. All in favor of placing on the agenda of additions, and that, okay. It is, so then I'll read the motion. So it's now become a motion, and it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Rich, whereas the Grey Brook Health Services is assessing the merits of consolidating elective day surgeries currently performed at Markdale, Beeford, and Southampton hospitals into the surgical program at the Owen Sound Hospital. And whereas as part of this assessment, the Grey Bruce Health Services Board of Directors has directed staff to inform community stakeholders and to report back with a stakeholder feedback in April. Excuse me. And whereas the town of Saugeen Shores considers itself to be a stakeholder in an assessment of potential changes to the level of service and patient care at Saugeen Memorial Hospital in Southampton, the town's interest is in matters relating to ongoing operations at the hospital has been elevated by our recent contribution of $200,000 in funding toward the expansion and renovation of the hospital facility. Excuse me. Now, therefore, the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores asserts the following: that the proposed donation of the proposed elimination of nearly 253 annual elective surgeries at the Saugeen Memorial Hospital, 2% of all elective surgeries performed at the Grey Bruce Health Services, excuse me, will have a negative impact and impose unnecessary hardship on the patients' families and on the community as a whole, and that forcing people to leave their community for elective surgeries will inherently degrade the quality of care received by those patients, and that reducing the level of service provided at the Grey Bruce Health Services Southampton site at the very moment at which the facility is undergoing a community-supported expansion and renovation is in an effort to, is an affront to every community member and organization that contributed financially to that project. And that for the above stated reasons, the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores opposes the proposed consolidation of elective surgeries. And that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores supports the efforts of the Grey Bruce Health Services to lobby for changes to the provincial funding formula to account for the special nature of our regional health care service system, and that copies of this resolution be circulated to the Grey Bruce Health Services, the Ontario Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, and the MPP for here in Bruce. Comments to it?
I had a question and a comment. You read slightly different numbers than what we had in our report. I just want to confirm, is it nearly 250 annual elective surgeries, or is it 600? Okay. I would respectfully request that we expand the circulation list to include the LIN and also the other surrounding MPPs, because at the meeting that took place upstairs last week, a couple of us were there, it was mentioned that of these elective day surgeries, a third of them are people from Saugeen Shores and Saugeen First Nation. The other 2/3 are coming from distances. So I think it's to include, the MPP over towards Collingwood, and the one, Bill Walker, up that way too would be a good plan. I was surprised when all of this was held up as the potential for a cost savings of $550,000, which had to fit in, or was fitting in somehow into a projected deficit of $17 million over the next 4 years. And when you start to look at the numbers, it's where's the other part of the 17 million coming from? So there were certainly a lot of questions that were left sort of hanging. And it was interesting to note that if they consolidate elective day surgeries in the Owen Sound facilities, it would shut down 3 sites. Another site, Markdale, is just about to go through a build, not unlike what we're currently involved in. And their build has been years in the coming, and it seems odd that, there's a nod to start something, and then this is coming at it. It was also suggested that, they have 9 operating suites at the Owen Sound Hospital. They only regularly use 6 of them. If they were to consolidate the day surgeries, they would open up another site there, but they still have 9 functioning operating suites there. So there were a number of questions about how this would all fit together, and I certainly appreciate what Councillor Rich, Councillor Minaj, and the Deputy Mayor said, and I spoke as well at the meeting. The Deputy Mayor's comments at the end were right on about standing up to the province, and this is by paper standing up to the province, but this is something that we should do, and we should find other ways to do it too, because there was the potential for a $17 million deficit over 4 years that they would have to bring down to zero. $550,000 isn't very far towards that goal, so what's next was a question that wasn't answered. So thanks for doing this, Councillor Rich and the Deputy Mayor. We need to say something. And your comment in here about our $200,000 contribution to the expansion that's going on at the hospital right now, let's not forget we also have somewhere in here a report about a new ER doctor that's coming that somehow is connected to a residential situation that we sort of put in place. And so there's all kinds of other ways that this community has contributed to the hospital that go far beyond the $200,000 contribution to the ER expansion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Minaj.
Yeah, it's just not fair, is it? It's another shell game. It's another. We're being sold a bad bill of goods. If we thought the school system was upsetting us, wait till we get this one. This is the first shot, and within 4 years we'll be closing hospitals, and it wouldn't put it past my way of thinking that the current government, notwithstanding and the city structures with the hospitals they're building. And it's all looking after their needs, and it's certainly not looking after the rural area needs. When we boil this one down, when I find out more information, it is about one doctor that we're going to lose here in our community is not going to be able to practice at that ER and is not going to be able to be on call to support that ER, and we will have to transport patients to Owen Sound because of that. So our new ER department, our new emergency department, is already being cut, and we haven't even got it completely built yet. So this is the beginning. We're really talking. We talked about $550,000. The truth of it is, it's probably more like $160,000 our share. And we've been putting a lot of money into healthcare over the last 5-10 years in this community, and maybe we're going to have to reevaluate and see what the game rules are and ask what the game rules are. But if we want to keep our emergency department and our emergency rooms functioning properly, then we need to know what the game rules are, and we didn't get that from that presentation. I thought it was a good presentation on the surface, that staff were doing a more than adequate job telling us what was happening. But as soon as you started hearing the other questions, as soon as you started hearing their replies, it was like, maybe not. Maybe there's more to it. So our hospital needs a $2 million capital improvement on its HVAC system, and that's going to be delayed. So this is an operations budget. There's a capital budget. We all understand those things, but the Vice Deputy Mayor is correct. The LHIN needs to be involved. We need to bring our representative LHIN right here in this room, and we need to ask that representative questions about where's the end game for this. Because I believe this is just the beginning, and there will be a bigger battle coming. Thank you.
Councillor Rich.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the Vice Deputy Mayor and Councillor Minaj are bang on. In the end, when you lose an anesthesiologist who's involved in performing surgeries, day surgeries at a hospital, and they're no longer the backup in your community, that is going to significantly affect your abilities as an emergency department over the long haul. I think that one of the things that came out of the discussion when Grey Bruce Health Services was here was that 9 hours of surgical time in our hospital goes towards children's dental surgery, and 4 hours in Owen Sound goes towards the same procedure. They could easily move that 4 hours worth of surgery here, make us into a specialized location. And to be clear, I don't think that there's any problem with what Grey Bruce Health Services is doing, but it's the changes in the funding formula that have put them in an awkward position to try and make smaller hospitals less viable. And I think it's imperative that we let the province know that we need to have a vibrant and viable hospital. One of the things that came out in that discussion is the growth in our community. We need to be a center, a medical center. We need to have more surgeries, not less surgeries there, so that people in our community don't have to travel as far and we become a center. And I think it's up to us to make sure that we get that message out there.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to support what Vice Deputy Mayor said about the changes to the final statement about the circulation as a friendly amendment. They circulate to the LIN as well as to the MPPs for Simcoe Grey and for Grey Bruce Owen Sound. So I'm sure my seconder would agree with that. So we'd accept that as a friendly amendment. And indeed, I wanted to echo strongly what Councillor Rich said with regard to Grey Bruce Health Services. I believe that the board of Grey Bruce Health Services is doing what they must do under the circumstances that they find themselves, and this is certainly not intended as a criticism of them. This is squarely intended as a criticism of the province of Ontario and the funding formula that they have in place. We heard at that meeting that it is imminent that the province is going to bring something to the board about changes potentially to that healthcare funding model, and this is an intent to indicate to them that we strongly disagree with the direction they are heading in with regard to this funding formula, and that they must come with those changes. Because if we react angrily to something as small as this, when they come back, they can only imagine how angry we'll be when they come back with a $17 million cut. So I think we need to react strongly to the effects, as small as they are at this point, of this funding formula change, and by doing so encourage the province to make changes to that formula so we don't ever experience that $17 million cut. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
To comment, I certainly share your sentiments about the loss, reduction of services, but my only concern really is it's kind of directed at Grey Bruce Health Services, and they're just the deliverer of the bad message. And really should go to the LIN and the minister. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick this, but I think we need to know where the responsibility lies. And I know the board over there, and I know the CEO struggle with trying to, they're given these guidelines to, you will balance a budget or we will balance it for you. And so they look at all options, and unfortunately this is where the position they're in. And I just say that because I'll support the motion because, but I think it really should be directed beyond the Grey Bruce Health Services. It's not, they're in a situation where they just simply cannot deal with the funding, provide the services that we all want with the funding that they're receiving. And anyways, I think we've had lots of speech on this. I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. The next item is bylaws, and the first one is authorize a union gas franchise agreement, and it's been moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. Bylaw 30-2017 being a bylaw to authorize a franchise agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores and Union Gas Limited is hereby read a first and second time this 10th day of April 2017. Comments, questions, the motion or bylaw? All in favor then? Councillor Penny, that's carried. Next item is authorize a transfer of 0.3 triangle. Moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by Councillor Matheson. The bylaw 31-2017 being a bylaw to authorize the acquisition and disposition of land is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 10th day of April 2017. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Next item is, and this is a good news story where we have a doctor that will come and be working in the emergency room. It's been moved by Councillor Myatt and seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt, and seconded by Councillor Matheson that bylaw 32-2017 being a bylaw to authorize a physician services agreement with Dr. Andrew Jeffrey is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 10th day of April 2017. Questions or comments? Again, a good news. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
For the benefit of the people watching at home, could you just read the second paragraph out loud, because that's the really good news part too. It reads, Dr. Jeffrey is an ER physician and is prepared to relocate to Saugeen Shores. Dr. Jeffrey has agreed to work as a full-time emergency room physician in Southampton, commencing October the 1st, 2017, for a period of 60 continuous months.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Again, good news. I can remember in the not too distant future where our emergency room was threatened to be closed because of a lack of physicians in the community that would work in the DR or coverage. So I mean, it's a really good news that we. So it's really good news that we have this. So, any further questions? Or all in favor? That's carried. So the next item is the confirmatory bylaw. It's been moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Dave Myatt, that bylaw 33-2017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 10th day of April 2017. All in favor? Carried. It's been moved by Councillor Rich, second by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that this council meeting of April the 10th, 2017 hereby adjourned at 9:33 p.m. All in favor? We're adjourned.